Welcome back to another episode of Miyazaki and Me. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Cheyne.
And unlike some other Mr. Curtises, we can speak with a Texas accent.
That's right. Unlike this film filled with American actors doing voiceovers, where they literally have one American in the movie, and they cast a British person
Yeah.
because, of course, they did.
Why not?
I mean, Cary Elwes is great.
He's great. He just can't do a Texas accent, apparently.
No, he cannot.
And really, neither can I. So I can't really give him too much crap. So, we are going over Porco Rosso, another Studio Ghibli movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki,
And based off a manga by Hayao Miyazaki.
which honestly, he's 2 for 2 on movies based off material that he previously worked on himself. Because he based Nausicaa was.
As in he's done it twice?
He's done it twice, and they're both very good.
I disagree. I did not really enjoy this movie.
Okay.
This is the first Ghibli film that I don't really love.
Okay. I actually enjoyed it a lot. So, but Porco Rosso was released on July 18th, 1992. It had a budget of $9.2 million and ended up making $44 million at the box office.
Successful.
Yep, very successful. Not the most successful thing to come out that year, though, for sure. Because with our animation timeline, we had the movie Cool World. That, I guess, technically we can call that an animated movie.
The Brad Pitt joint Cool World. Yeah, no, that I loved that movie when I was a kid.
Yeah. But also, a little thing called Aladdin.
I haven't heard of it.
And then another little movie called Fern Gully.
Tim Curry, sexy, even as a smoke monster.
As a smoke monster. Yep. But then also, like, this is actually a really big year for television animation. And I'll go least prominent to most prominent. We got one of the first seasons of Sailor Moon.
Very nice.
A little show that you've shown me a couple episodes of that I actually kind of enjoyed, and that was this was the start of Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, and there's actually a connection between Sailor Moon and Yu Yu Hakusho. Do you know it?
I have no idea. What's the connection?
The original creators of both those shows are married to each other.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's really cool, actually.
Yep.
The creators of this are not married to anyone prominent, but the other series that started this year was Batman the Animated Series.
Yes, about that man bat.
That was the first episode. The first episode
right.
was about the man bat.
So that's what the whole show was about after that. I've only seen the first episode, so I just assume they followed the man bat after that.
That would be a terrible series. But yeah, so back to Porco Rosso. This is a movie about a Italian fighter pilot from World War I, who is now a bounty hunter, and he somehow got transformed into a pig.
Yeah, total. Yep. Yes, he did. They don't really explain how, and other than the fact that they do say pig and don't be so pig-headed, and you're being a pig so very, very often to this guy that honestly, outside of a bit of sexism, is nothing but nice to most people.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like he's a little sexist at points, a little ageist at points as well. But that's it. Like, not to excuse either of those, obviously, But
Yeah, I mean, he comes around in both of them because it's the sexism and ageism essentially are both targeted towards the 17-year-old girl. But
yes.
yeah, who is he befriends. And luckily that didn't turn into a romantic thing. I was worried for a minute
I
there. I'm just like,
yeah, I was worried as well about that, but luckily he had another love interest who, we'll get into. So this is just Miyazaki's, fantasy basically of
yeah,
like,
love
hey,
of playing.
yeah, it's like, hey, I'm going to make an entire movie about flying and planes and fighter pilots and fun stuff like that I enjoy, and I guess I'll put a little fantasy twist on it. Here, let's go.
I thought the beginning little scroll thing was really cool.
Yeah, I liked yeah the opening credit, little stuff, and I liked the opening scene as well. When he gets called to rescue the schoolgirls.
I actually did like that scene as well. Real quick trivia: do you know why they did the opening text the way that they did?
I don't know how. Why?
Because this was originally filmed to be a 30 to 45 minute shorter film to be shown on airplanes, and they wanted to have simultaneously um, different languages so that they didn't have to change that text at the beginning, and they only had to change the text later on. So,
Okay, that
if
makes
for
that
different
makes a lot of
languages, yep.
sense. Because we get that scroll, and like I almost thought if it made of, it wasn't Morse code, but it had that quick succinct style of like, maybe it could have been like a telegraph, news wire sort of influence as well.
I could see that.
Yeah, but yeah. So Porco Rosso, he gets this call as he's a bounty hunter. This ship got attacked by pirates, and
Sky Pirate.
sky pirates, not Io Shirai and Kairi Sane, but sky pirates. Um, they they also kidnap these schoolgirls, and I love the fact that the schoolgirls are just trash talking the pirates the entire time.
Oh, that was this was the best part of the whole movie was this little schoolgirl scene. Like they're, we say schoolgirls, they're probably like 6 or 7 is my guess for ages. Like, and they're just they're super excited to be kidnapped. They are messing around with all the loot and like Kyle said, trash talking all the pirates. And then once when the engine gets hit, they go, "Oh, we're going down," and they're laughing about it. And then they all jump out of the plane the second they get into the water, and they're like, "It's okay, we can swim."
Yeah.
They were the best part of the whole movie.
Yep. And actually, really, they saved Porco Rosso's life because they interrupt the gunfight. And actually stop the guy from firing at one point just because they get in his way and are annoying him almost too much.
Yeah, they were trying to look at Porco Rosso, and he was trying to turn the gun towards them, and they were like, "No, we're looking," and they kept pushing the gun away.
Yeah. But yeah, Porco Rosso, he ends up saving the group of scroll girls, and yeah, that was kind of the first scene, and kind of establishing like, oh, he's a good guy, but he's also like he also leaves the pirates enough money so that they can fix their ship.
Yeah, he's helpful.
Yeah.
Brad Garrett being one of the pirates, I recognize that voice right away.
Yeah, the super deep booming voice of Brad
Yep.
Garrett. Yes. Yeah, and I had to look it up because I was like, it feels familiar, but I don't quite know. And it was one of those like I couldn't tell if it was enhanced in some way or if that was just the person's voice. And then it's like, oh, it's Brad Garrett, so no, that's just his voice.
Yep.
And you find out that the Sky Pirates actually basically put a bounty out on Porco Rosso. So they put a bounty out onto the bounty hunter.
Yeah, you find this out by jumping to a scene inside of a bar, and that's when you meet the one of the ingenues, I guess the main ingenue, when she is singing, and you also get to meet Donald Curtis. Gina is the ingenue,
Yep.
and then Donald Curtis, who is Carrie Elva's voice character from America, even though he was very British, and he kept slipping into a British accent while trying to do a Texas accent, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And you get this moment where you think that this American guy might not be a bad dude because he's trying to shut everybody up so he can listen to her sing. And then he's just like, oh, maybe I'll take her home with me. And they're like, oh, okay, you're just a skeezy guy too. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Porco Rosso, because this is all Gina's club. That's like this private island, not like super fancy, but it seems like just this nice holdover of like everyone has the agreement that nothing happens at, Gina's club. All the pirates are like, we can discuss business, but nothing's going down here because we all love Gina.
Yes. I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah. And then so we get Donald Curtis going after Porco Rosso. But this is when and this was one part that I liked. I like the fact that at the beginning, Porco Rosso is kind of this feared sky pirate, bounty hunter or type guy, but his plane is terrible. Like it's in awful condition. The engine barely runs. He can barely take it off. But once he's in flight, then that's when he's all good.
Yeah, and like in the first scene, it was leaking oil, and he was like, "That's not good." And you find out that he had in right before this Curtis scene. I'm pretty sure he pays off and actually finishes paying off the plane. And they go, "All right, the seaplane's completely yours now." So he is just he's obviously he doesn't have a lot of money as a mercenary, but enough to purchase his plane.
Yeah.
And yeah, then he gets into a dogfight with Curtis that really only changes, for Curtis. Curtis, quote unquote, wins by the fact that Porco Rosso's plane malfunctions and the engine goes out. So he is then a sitting duck to get shot.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Curtis doesn't shoot down Porco Rosso. He just shoots at Porco when his plane's already malfunctioning, and then Porco Rosso actually does a good job of hiding himself as everyone is, as so that he sees this one scrap of the plane, going down still in the water. So Curtis thinks that he shot him down, but the rest of the plane is still, intact and hidden under these bushes real quick.
Yeah, and then we get a shot of Gina trying to go and search for him, but he's calling her on the phone. She calls him Marco, by the way, because of course Porco's real name is Marco.
Yes.
Fun pun. And he says that he is in Milan, at which point she freaks out because you find out that he is from Italy and that there is a warrant out for his arrest in Italy, and she doesn't want him there because it's unsafe for him to be there.
Yeah, so he goes to Italy. I did like the fact that we start to establish that you do have history between, Porco and Gina. Like, this isn't just some one-off thing. Like, I really wish they would have gotten the actual backstory a little earlier. Like, we do eventually get it, but it's 3/4 of the way through the movie. And you almost, like, don't care anymore by the time you get to it. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's like, oh, that's why she calls him Marco, because she knew him at first as Marco. Okay. Because they were actually, moving ahead to the flashback. Weirdly, um, like Marco was part of a squad. Yeah, squad's what you call it.
Yes.
Of fighter pilots, and Gina's first husband was one of the other pilots. So Marco was actually his best man for their wedding to Gina. But they kind of always imply that Marco was always in love with Gina, but this other guy, kind of got there first, sort of thing.
And I don't know if I would say they imply that. I mean it's pretty clear that Marco is in love with Gina now, but at the time, like in the flashback and everything, he's doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard to say. I don't think that they earned a lot of the things that they did, but that's fine.
yeah,
I'm
it's okay.
But yeah, he's in Italy now. He's working with Piccolo, Mr.
Not that
Piccolo,
Piccolo.
not that Piccolo, yeah, of to rebuild his plane. He finds out that Piccolo's sons have left to get other jobs, and that his niece or granddaughter, I can't
Granddaughter.
remember, granddaughter was going to design his plane, who's a 17-year-old girl named Theo.
Yeah,
And this is when Porco says, "No, she's too young and
yeah,
inexperienced, and she's a girl, and why would I let any of that stuff work?"
yeah,
And she
yeah.
goes,
Like, I think the actual line was, Theo asking, "Are you leaving because I'm a woman or because I'm young?" And Porco just says both.
"Yep." Um, and then she asks him a question of like, "What makes a good pilot? Is it experience?" And he goes, "No, it's not experience." And he goes, "Ha, see, you don't need experience to be good at what you do. So give me a shot," and that works.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Theo starts designing in this the new additions to the plane, and actually spends the whole night designing everything. And Porco sees it the next morning and likes the design and tells her, it's like, "Oh, you should get some sleep because you are not going to be at your best if you try to keep hours like this." And she was like, "But I was just trying to impress you. Now I'm going to go sleep." Now that she got the job.
and then this is when before this scene, I was just like, "Oh, is this not going to be one of those movies where there's like this is going to be the first one where there's not a young female antagonist and protagonist, I should say, not
Yeah.
antagonist." And I mean, she's a co-protagonist of sorts for the rest of the movie. She kind of she bums away with him the whole time. But they really do the strong female build with the scene for Mr. Piccolo's shop when he brings in all the workers to build the plane, and it is all the women of his family.
Yes.
Uh,
Because all the guys are out either, you know, during the war or being pirates or getting other jobs or some other things. We never get a full explanation of where all of them are, but yeah, all the women are left home, to do the actual work, and they build this plane basically from scratch because, it was so destroyed.
Yep. And it's a fun little montage of them building it up, and then Porco goes and meets up with an old friend of his in the Italian Air Force to find out that they are out for him to get him because he left the army, and that's when you get a line about fascism and he'd rather be a pig than a fascist. Um, which is a it's a decent line, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
there were, if like, I think I wrote this down maybe 45 minutes in, and just saying, if they say don't be such a pig one more time, I'm going to shut this movie off.
yeah, I was
Uh
tired of it. I was, and they do say it a few more times.
yeah.
And you get all men are pigs is said a couple times, and yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, they really hammer the um whole point of it home real hard for you,
Yeah.
just in case you weren't getting it. But I mean, it is an adult movie disguised as a kids movie, so of course they do.
Yep.
Um, Actually, Miyazaki did say that one of his biggest mistakes was trying to make an adult movie for kids
Yep.
with this movie.
Yeah, I remember seeing that quote like when we were doing our research, and I can see where he's coming from. I just think like
I can definitely see where he's coming from because it's why I
it's
don't like this movie.
yeah, but yeah, like this movie has a weird thing of like it being too much and too little at the same time. Like, if we compare it to Nausicaa, and that trying to pack in so much story into one film, and doing a fairly good job, but it's still just being too convoluted.
Mhm.
Whereas like this movie is so simple, but also like you needed more. You need, like, it was almost too simplified, that like I would have wanted more background on Gina and Marco, so that relationship felt more earned. You know, little stuff like that.
I just think that this movie never decided if it was for kids or for adults, and
Yeah.
that was punishing for me as somebody trying to watch it, and for the movie itself. I also I found I found a lot of the dialogue to be wanting, and um, just a lot of what they were doing didn't interest me much.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like a very straight line story that didn't have any twists or turns, that just didn't really, yeah. This movie just didn't appeal to me. I can see
Yeah.
it's a good movie. It's not a, I mean, if I'm looking at it from a unobjective standpoint, it is not a badly done movie.
No.
Just to me, it did not speak to me.
No, I think, and like we'll see moving forward into the series. Like, I think some people, and I don't like making this comparison. Um, like it's almost the fact that you know uh Miyazaki almost does two. This is the end of the period where he's at his most prolific, putting out the most content he'll ever put out in his entire career, because he did, Nausicaa in 1984, Castle in the Sky 1986, My Neighbor Totoro 1988, Kiki's Delivery Service 1989, and then this in 1992, and then he'll take a break, and he won't personally direct another film until Princess Mononoke in 1997. Like, he gives himself a 5-year break to do his next film, and then the next it's another 4 years between Mononoke and Spirited Away.
I mean, he was the screenwriter for Whisper of the Heart as well, though,
He
in
was,
'95.
but like
So he's not like not doing
yeah,
anything.
he's not doing any. It's not that he's not doing anything, but I mean, he produced other movies in the meantime too. Like, he produced Only Yesterday, and Ocean Waves,
Hmm.
coming up. So like he's this is the busiest he is his entire career, and I think you can almost tell that it's like he probably needed to step back a little bit, and not be as crazy busy as he was.
And you can tell that this one here is a little bit more of a passion project, from the fact that if it hasn't been abundantly clear in all the movies leading up to this one, he is obsessed with flights and airplanes
Yes.
and things of that sort. And so I think that he really wanted to do this movie. But I don't know. Yeah, just keep moving on with the plot, I guess. I mean, they I don't even know how they fly away from the Italian people coming after him. The Italian secret service, I think, is what they call them, or secret police.
Yep.
And escape Italy. Head back to be ambushed by the pirates that were mad. The pirates he busted at the beginning of the movie, and then also the people that hired Curtis to go after him, all like ambush him at his secret hideout, which didn't seem like it was a very good secret hideout if all of those people found it.
Yeah, all of them found it like right away, and it's like, okay, all right. Yeah, great job with your secret hideout. So this was one of the things we actually skipped over two little one little Easter egg. And that's the fact that Piccolo, as he's designing this new engine for the plane, the engine is embossed with just the words Ghibli, which was a nice little Easter egg.
Yep. And there's no engine with the name Ghibli, but Studio Ghibli did get their name from an Italian airplane, the Caproni CA-309 Ghibli airplane. So it's kind of a they couldn't put the plane in here, so they just put it on the engine.
Yep. And then as Fio and Porco are leaving from Italy, Fio puts on a very recognizable hat. And it's basically the same hat that Nausicaa had in Nausicaa. And given the fact that it's a similar haircut as well, like it gave off major Nausicaa vibes to me, and like that's kind of a bad thing for this movie because, you know, as we've been talking, like I enjoyed Nausicaa much more than Cheyne did. So like Nausicaa is one of my favorite Ghibli movies now. So like invoking that is like, it gives me a bit of nostalgia, but also like, yeah, but you're not that movie.
I enjoyed Nausicaa a lot. I just had a problem with the fact that it should have been multiple movies or a series, because they packed too much. Well, this movie didn't have enough to spread out to the length of time that it used.
No, and it was even shorter. Like it's an hour and 35.
Yeah, and this movie should have been 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
With the amount of content it had, I don't think that this movie should have been this long.
Yes. And then we got Curtis and Curtis actually jumps in as the gang has found on Porco's hideout, and he challenges Porco to another air battle, and this time the bet will be if Donald Curtis wins, he gets Fio's hand in marriage.
She's 17. I just want to lay that right out there, right at the beginning of that.
Yep, because he is instantly fallen in love with a 17-year-old.
This is right after he did get turned down by Gina in a previous scene, because Gina's been waiting for Porco.
Yep. And Fio was smart enough to accept this challenge, and says if Porco wins, Curtis has to pay the bills that Porco has chalked up at her grandfather's company, and then gives him the bills, which I like the little scene later when Fio comes back from her swim and is disappointed in herself when she realizes, like, we should have padded those bills. He would have still paid it.
Yeah. Yep. That was fine. That was funny.
Yeah.
And then we get this big race where there's people coming from everywhere to watch this. Well, not race. It's a battle.
Yeah.
Uh, to watch it, and they're taking bets, and it looks like all of the sky pirates are making money, and
Yeah,
they're
like
very excited, and they
it's a ridiculous setup because like it's, you know, there's this whole island, you know, the leader of the gang who has also fallen in love with Theo, but fallen in love with Theo as in like a respect way though, like, you know, kind of seeing like, oh, you're a scrappy little punk kind of thing. um
and the gang doesn't start rooting for Porco, but they don't seem to want Curtis to win Theo's hand of marriage either.
yeah,
They all get
yeah,
very they're all like giving him that and
yeah,
the raspberries and everything when he's
yeah,
saying stuff about it. So
yeah.
and
And
they and
yeah, there's like restaurants set up on the island and a coffee vendor, and like you said, they're taking bets, and you know, it's a ridiculous setup. um
and then
and
you get an air battle for a while.
yeah, for a while, that's for sure. Like you get a, yeah, which was like really well animated. You know, this is the first, you know, we haven't talked personnel wise as much, but like this is our first Toshihiro Suzuki sole production. Like Toru Hana had, you know, retired after only yesterday, and Suzuki had taken over as the main producer for Studio Ghibli, you know, moving forward. And yeah, it's real. So this was his first big test, and production wise, like the animation looks gorgeous. You know, it's just the story might have been a little lacking.
For me at least.
For you at least, yes.
Yeah, the animation's good. Uh, this sky fight happens for a while, and it doesn't. They they fire at each other. You find out that Porco's only not winning because he's trying not to kill him. But then like Curtis runs out of bullets at the same time Porco's gun malfunctions, and so they park and start doing a fist fight. And
Yeah,
while this fist fight's happening is when Gina is actually coming to let them know that the Italian army is on their way to, because they found out about this battle, and that they wanted to take advantage of it and capture them.
yeah. And actually, one thing we kind of glossed over was the night before the fight. Is when Theo is up and is asking about, you know, basically asking Porco to tell her a story, and she ends up telling the story of, you know, this air battle during the war, and seeing all of these planes, and then you kind of get implied that like him, like he feels like he ran away from the fight, but he was just really the only survivor. And it almost seems like that's when he became like got cursed and became the pig, you know, sort of thing. But she actually at first sees him, and as she wakes up, and you feel like it's a dream like status of like she actually sees him, and actually sees him as a human.
Yeah, it goes away pretty quickly there when she says his name. He turns, and he's back to being a pig.
Yeah.
But yeah, she sees him as a human for just a moment. Um, and this is when you find out that the curse might be self put upon him because he sees himself as a pig.
Yeah. And that's also the other thing that right after the fight, you know, Gina gets word to everybody that like, oh, you know, she's, you know, they're all coming, you know, the Italian army's coming, everybody should flee. Everybody flees except for Porco and Curtis, who have just gone through this huge fist fight, and the two of them are going to basically cause a distraction. And keep the Italian army distracted so that everyone else can get away. And Curtis looks and says that it's like, wait, Porco, what happened to your face? And we never see it, but it's clearly implied that he looks human again.
Yeah, and that's the last you actually see of Porco. The rest of the film is kind of a summary by Theo saying that Porco drew the army away, everybody escaped. She hung out with Gina for a while, but then went back home. Now it's years later, and she's taken over the Piccolo company. Curtis got famous like he wanted to in Hollywood and is an actor, producer, and director. And that Porco, I don't think they really say what Porco does much.
They never
He flies around.
Yeah, they never really say like they just kind of imply that he flew around, and then the last line of the movie, because unlike other Ghibli movies, there's not really a post. We've been getting so used to these credit rolls that have like the animation like storyboard almost of like what happens for a little bit after the film. We don't really get that with this one. We just get because Gina had always talked about she was hoping one day that Porco would come to that. Well, she says she hopes one day Marco would come to her in the afternoon, because he only ever comes at night to see her, and she just wants to meet him one afternoon in her garden. And the last lines of the movie are, and as for Gina's bet, well, I'll keep that one to myself, or something to that vein. And it's like, oh, okay, so she kind of implies like, oh, that might have happened, but maybe it didn't.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah,
and then it's a bunch of pictures from looks like from different wars, but they replace they made it look like all the soldiers were actually pigs.
Yeah,
which was a weird thing.
Yeah, it was. It was an interesting way for the credits to roll. But I mean, it's kind of like the credits were kind of were kind of similar to how the entire film was, really
slow.
Slow, and it's like I get where you were going, but you didn't really hit it. Like, you didn't really connect to a lot of this. So
yeah, I feel like I've put my opinion into the recap here a lot.
A little bit, yes.
I wasn't too impressed with this film. It just, yeah, I mean, just to recap my biggest, like, it's well animated. It is. It could be a decent shorter movie, in my opinion. I think that they could have made this into a what it was originally supposed to be, a half-hour, 45-minute shorter film, and I think that it would have been more palatable for me.
Okay.
This just feels like they're trying to stretch it out too much. It also feels like it does not decide if it's for kids or for adults. Where at one time because the story itself is an adult centric story of what they're trying to tell, but the way that the dialogue is used in it and the way that they talk throughout the story is definitely aimed towards children. So to me, it was just it just made it hard. It made it a harder watch. It's the hardest one for me to watch so far of the Ghibli films.
Yeah. Well, and like as we were talking about, like, moving forward, I think Miyazaki finds that balance at least in his own films, for sure, moving forward, of like, he's just going to make the films that he wants to make, and I don't think he's going to be concerned as much about, is this going to be for kids? Is this going to be, you know, for adults? Like, he's just, I think, moving forward, especially like if you look at, the next three that he directs himself are, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and Howl's Moving Castle, which I don't think those are adult by any means, but they're definitely not aiming for children.
I think that he finds his niche in the young adult area, not kids area with those movies. I would say young adult to college age would be a kind of the what would approach those the best.
Yeah. But then then he leaps back, does Ponyo, which is definitely more of a kids centric film. But then goes the other way and does the Wind Rises, which is more adult.
Yeah, so he jumps back and forth. He has loves for both the kids movies and the adult movies. And Studio Ghibli as a whole jumps back and forth between the kids and the adult movies as well. It's just this one just never, in my opinion, they try to do both they try to do both poorly in comparison to in the future where they do both well.
Yeah, like you said, I think he finds the balance later on. That he was searching for this film, and finds it, moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Michael Keaton's the voice of Porco Rosso in the English version. As Connor said on our last podcast,
Jean Reno.
Miyazaki's favorite translation of this film is the French version with Jean Reno.
Yeah, which, I mean, you can't blame him because, I could see, Michael Keaton, I think, did a pretty admirable job here. But like, if it were a live action film, I would cast Jean Reno instead of Michael Keaton.
Oh, for sure.
For the gruffness and, like, gruffness but a bit of charm. I think both actors very much have that, but I think it's better, and I mean, you also get a better accent.
Yes.
A more region appropriate accent with Jean Reno. Because that was also one of the things, like, are we sure, especially for the design, are we sure Curtis was supposed to be from Texas the whole time? Because he definitely looks, especially with the branding on his uniform and stuff, like, that definitely looks more like a French flag than like an American insignia.
He is specifically called American multiple times in the movie.
That's true.
Like, very specific. Like, even before his introduction, they called him American. And like you said, though, right when they said that, I was waiting for another character to walk out there because I thought that was a Frenchman.
Yes.
Because I thought he had a French flag on his shirt.
Like, it's sideways. Like, it's horizontal stripes instead of vertical stripes. But.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, what's your final thoughts on the film?
I enjoyed it more than you did, but that's not hard. I thought it was kind of a mid-tier, like Studio Ghibli movie. Like, it's not up there with, because still my top two thus far that we've watched are Grave of the Fireflies and Nausicaa. It's not up on that tier, but I think it's the next tier down. Which is also, the stuff you didn't like. I put it similar to My Neighbor Totoro, which I know you didn't enjoy as much as I did it in the same way. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, this one is bottom of my list because this is the first one that I just felt like I had like I said I had trouble getting through, that I had trouble actually watching to the end of.
yeah,
Um and a lot of that just has to do with the length.
yeah,
Even though it's a shorter film in comparison of it, it just didn't feel like they earned the length that it had.
yeah.
Um so this is probably the bottom of the list for me as of right now.
Okay,
Like I said, I don't think that it's a bad movie. Um I just don't think that this movie is for me.
okay. I can see that.
But yeah, so next time we will be watching another movie that I haven't seen before. I'm very excited because we're getting through a stretch here of a few that I haven't seen in a row. And we'll be watching Ocean Waves.
And this will be our first and the first movie that we review that is not directed by either Hayao Miyazaki or Isao Takahata. This one's directed by Tomami Mochizuki, because it was a television movie.
Yep, I believe of the three major Ghibli that Suzuki is the only one actually attached to this movie.
Yeah, he's the only one because Takahata would be deep into production on Pompoko. Miyazaki would be in production already, starting writing Whisper of the Heart.
Yep.
So yeah, everybody else is busy. So it's a Suzuki. This is his first major test of like how he can actually run the studio.
And I'm very interested to see it because I have not seen this movie. I've actually I know nothing about this movie at all.
I barely know. Like all I really know is that it's a television movie and it's shorter than the rest of these. That's about all I know so far. We will have a couple guests on. We'll tell you who they are when they are on the episode. So.
But yeah, so that should be exciting. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. That's it for me too. Make sure to follow all of our other stuff. Check out. Actually, Cheyne, this is the perfect time. Because you mentioned it in last episode. Talk about your new podcast.
Yeah, so my good friend Carl and I are doing a podcast that we have dubbed the Anime Niacs, where we will be watching some TV show animes, so serialized animes, and discussing them. We're starting out pretty hard into My Hero Academia, so we're real excited about that. I believe at the release of this, the first episode probably came out last week. So go and listen to that, and then our next episode will come out next week.
Because Cheyne is being smart and is since we do this series bi-weekly, he is also doing Anime Niacs bi-weekly as well on the off weeks from us. So. Except for, once we get to 100 subscribers and we have to do Akira, then he's going to do just a lot of audio that week.
It'll be a fun one.
Yeah, but it'll be worth it for that one. Yeah. Other than that, follow me at Knocked Out Films on all social media and all that stuff. And thank you once again for listening.
Be good to each other.